Good morning and welcome to this morning's reflection. And so we come to the end of the first week in September. And we continue to look at the arrows and the romance and what part they play in God's story. Can life be any more uncertain than it is at the moment? We so long for life to be better than it is. And we hope that God will be the hero in this story. If only He would stop the arrows. But at times, He seems to be almost indifferent to our plight. And we ask ourselves, would my life be any worse if there were no God? I mean, after all, is God doing anything for me? And we might get to the place of saying, well, does God even have a heart? And so to answer this question, it might be more helpful to not see God as the author of our stories, but rather as the central character in the larger story. And then perhaps, if we see God as the central character, what then could we learn about His heart? So let's look at Act 1 of this story, the story of God. And we look at His eternal heart. In the opening lines from the book of John, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God." The story that is the sacred romance begins with God not alone, but God in relationship, God in intimacy beyond our imagination. The Trinity is at the center of the universe. Think of the best moments of love or friendship, the best times with your family. Think of times that have truly made life worth living. These are reflections of love. Love that flows from the Trinity. We long for intimacy because we are made in the image of perfect intimacy. Our story then begins with the hero, who is God, in love. Have you ever been caught up in something that you just had to share, something that took your breath away, and you think, if only my beloved was here? The best things in life are meant to be shared. And Jesus says, "I want these you gave me to be with me right here where I am. I want them to be one heart and mind with us." John chapter 17. Overflowing with generosity, that is what comes from the abundance of real love. We were created out of the intimacy of the Trinity. And so, from the very beginning, we know that God is a lover at heart. And then we come to Act 2, the heart betrayed. God opens His heart to the angels. And this happens before humans were even created. But Satan turns on Him. He rises up against Him. And he does this by sowing the seed of doubt amongst the heavenly host, doubt about the nature of God's heart. God wins that fight, but it took a great deal of force. And then we come to Act 3, the heart on trial. Now the curtain goes up on humanity, and God is creating the world. Why is he doing this? Because he's already been betrayed by the angels. Now he has prepared again to woo our hearts. God was so delighted with his creation. We look at the first chapter of Ephesians and we see what God's motives were. It reads, "Long before he laid earth's foundations, he had us in mind, had settled on us as a focus of his love, to be made whole and holy by his love. Long ago he decided to adopt us into his family through Jesus Christ. He wanted us to enter into the celebration of his lavish gift-giving by the hand of his beloved Son. Long before we first heard of Christ and got our hopes up, he had his eye on us and had designs on us for glorious living." God gives us freedom in spite of the angels. He did not make us puppets. He wanted lovers, and so he invites us into a romance. He trusts us. He loves us. But we opened Pandora's box. We betrayed his love and trust. And we did so because Satan told us that we should dart God's heart. Yet God says he will not abandon us, and instead he will win us back again, and that is grace. Grace removes all doubt about God's heart. Human history is the story of God's persistent and continual pursuit of us in love. He clothes himself as a beggar. He renounces the throne. Jesus is our final answer to the question, what is God's heart like? When we feel life is up to us, it becomes suffocating. When we are the main character in the story becomes too small. But when we see God as the hero of the large story, we come to know that his heart is good, and that we are his children. And so next time we will look at our role in this story of love, this story that is God's story. Amen.